Picture stepping into your garden just once, planting a handful of vegetables, and then seeing them return year after year without replanting. It sounds almost too good to be true, but nature has its surprises. Some vegetables grow much like fruit trees. Plant them once, and they keep producing for years. No starting seeds over and over, no reworking beds every season, just a steady supply of food and a garden that practically sustains itself. Today, we're diving into 20 vegetables that grow like fruit trees. These are the kinds you plant once and harvest again and again for years to come. Stick around until the end, because a few on this list are so uncommon and overlooked that even seasoned gardeners may not know about them. The final picks, especially numbers 16 to 20, are real standouts. If you enjoy finding ways to grow more food with less effort, consider subscribing and turning on notifications so you don't miss practical gardening tips like this. It's free, and it helps more people discover ideas like these. Now grab a cup of coffee, settle in, and let's explore 20 vegetables you plant once and enjoy for years. Let's get started. Plant 1. Asparagus, the long-term investment that pays you back for decades. Let us begin with a plant that most gardeners already know by name, but perhaps underestimate in terms of what it truly offers. Asparagus. Here is what makes asparagus so extraordinary. Once it is established in your garden, a single asparagus bed can produce fresh spears every spring for 15 to 20 years. Think about that. 20 years of fresh vegetables from one initial planting. The first year, you allow the plant to establish its root system without harvesting. The second year, you may pick a few spears. By the third year, the bed becomes fully productive, and from that point forward, it reliably delivers every spring without you having to do anything more than add a little compost. Asparagus is rich in folate, vitamin K, or in a compound called asparagine, which supports kidney function and helps the body flush out excess fluid. For older adults, it is particularly valuable for joint health and reducing inflammation. It loves well-drained soil and full sunlight, and once the roots go deep, it handles drought and heat with remarkable resilience. Plant it once with care, and it will feed your family for 2 decades. Gardening tip. Add a layer of composted material around your asparagus crowns each spring. This keeps moisture in and feeds the roots, helping produce thicker, more tender spears year after year. Plant 2. Rhubarb, the tart perennial that asks for almost nothing. Next on our list is rhubarb, a plant that is bold, beautiful, and almost aggressively productive once it settles in. Rhubarb produces thick, tart stalks that burst through the soil each spring, ready to harvest long before most other vegetables have even started growing. Its enormous decorative leaves make it look almost tropical in the garden, but it is actually very cold-hardy and thrives in temperate climates. A well-cared-for rhubarb plant can produce abundantly for 10 years or more, and the more you harvest, the more vigorous it grows. The stalks are rich in vitamin C, potassium, and fiber, and are used in everything from pies and crumbles to savory chutneys and sauces. One important note for my viewers: only the stalks are eaten. The leaves contain oxalic acid in quantities that make them toxic, so please always discard the leaves and use only the red or pink stems. Rhubarb thrives on neglect. Give it a sunny spot, good compost, and adequate space to spread, and it will reward you season after season with very little effort on your part. Gardening tip. Planting rhubarb near chives or garlic is a natural way to deter the leaf beetles and aphids that can occasionally trouble it. A simple, chemical-free approach that works beautifully. Plant 3. Sweet potato vine, the crop that covers the ground and feeds the family. Most people think of sweet potatoes as a crop you plant and harvest once, but with the right approach, sweet potatoes can become a near-permanent fixture in a warm garden, coming back season after season with very little effort. Here's the secret. If you leave small tubers or cuttings in the ground after harvest, the plant will sprout again when the warm weather and rains return. In warmer climates, it behaves almost like a true perennial, sending out its trailing vines and producing new tubers year after year. What makes this plant particularly impressive is that it is a triple-use crop. The tubers are a nutritional powerhouse, rich in beta-carotene, fiber, potassium, and complex carbohydrates. The heart-shaped leaves are also edible, and with a nutritional profile similar to spinach but slightly sweeter when cooked. And the vines themselves act as a living ground cover, protecting the soil from heat and erosion. For my viewers who are managing blood sugar, sweet potatoes are a far gentler choice than regular white potatoes. Their fiber content slows the release of glucose into the bloodstream, making them one of the better starchy vegetables for metabolic health. Gardening tip: growing sweet potato vines near corn or tall beans creates a natural shade and moisture system. The vines cover the ground, the taller plants filter the sun, and together they reduce the amount of watering the whole bed needs. Plant 4. Jerusalem. Artichoke, the underground treasure that never stops multiplying. Here is a plant that I suspect many of you have walked past in a garden or at a farmer's market without knowing what it was. Jerusalem artichoke, sometimes called sunchoke, is one of the most underrated and productive perennial vegetables you can grow. Above the ground, it looks like a cheerful wild sunflower, tall, bright, and full of energy. But underground is where the real story happens. The plant produces clusters of knobby, nutty-flavored tubers that taste like a cross between a potato and a water chestnut. Earthy, slightly sweet, and wonderfully versatile in the kitchen. Once you plant Jerusalem artichoke, it multiplies on its own. Dig up what you need each autumn, leave a few tubers behind, and next season they will return stronger than ever. It is drought-resistant, pest-resistant, and happy in poor soil. It requires almost no attention once established. From a health perspective, Jerusalem artichokes are exceptionally high in inulin, a prebiotic fiber that feeds the beneficial bacteria in your gut. As I often tell my patients, a healthy gut is connected to a healthy immune system, better mood, and even sharper cognitive function. One gentle note: because of the high inulin content, introducing Jerusalem artichokes gradually into your diet is wise, particularly if your digestive system is sensitive. Start with small amounts and increase slowly. Gardening tip: plant Jerusalem artichoke alongside mint or garlic chives. Together, they naturally repel aphids and root pests, creating a self-sustaining, low-maintenance corner of your garden. Plant 5. Horseradish, the warrior root that keeps coming back. If there were a prize for the most determined and resilient plant in this entire list, horseradish might well win it. Once this plant takes hold in your garden, it is nearly impossible to remove. And as a gardener, that is exactly what you want. Even the smallest fragment of root left behind after harvest will grow into a full new plant. Horseradish laughs at frost, shrugs off pests, and thrives even in partial shade and poor soil. Plant it once, harvest what you need each year, and leave a few pieces behind. It will keep returning indefinitely. The root itself is well known for its sharp, fiery flavor. That intense heat that clears the sinuses and wakes up the taste buds. But horseradish is more than a condiment. It contains compounds called glucosinolates, with which research has linked to anti-inflammatory and antimicrobial properties. Traditional medicine across Europe and Asia has used horseradish for centuries to support respiratory health and digestion. For older adults dealing with sinus congestion or sluggish digestion, small amounts of fresh horseradish grated into meals can be genuinely useful. As always, if you take blood thinners or have thyroid concerns, speak with your doctor before using it medicinally. Gardening tip: horseradish planted near root vegetables like potatoes or carrots acts as a natural pest deterrent. It is one of the easiest companion planting strategies available. Plant 6. Egyptian walking onion. The onion that plants itself. Now here is a plant with a personality as distinctive as its name. The Egyptian walking onion is unlike any onion you have grown before. As it grows, it produces small clusters of bulbs at the very top of its stalks, up in the air rather than underground. When those clusters become heavy enough, the stalks bend down, touch the soil, and the bulbs take root and start a new plant. This is how the onion, quite literally, walks across your garden, spreading itself one step at a time, season after season, without any help from you. Every part of this plant is edible. The underground bulbs, the hollow green stems, and the small topset bulbs all have a pleasant, mild onion flavor that works in virtually any savory dish. And because it spreads so readily, a small initial planting can become a permanent onion patch that expands year by year. From a health perspective, onions of all varieties are rich in quercetin, a flavonoid with well-documented anti-inflammatory and antioxidant properties. Regular consumption of onion family vegetables is associated in research with better cardiovascular health and reduced risk of certain cancers. Gardening tip: plant walking onions near carrots or beets. The sulfur compounds onions release naturally help repel the root flies and maggots that these vegetables are prone to. Plant 7. Tree collards, the perennial kale that grows into a shrub. Most people are familiar with kale, but very few people outside of dedicated permaculture gardens know about tree collards. And once you discover them, you will wonder why you ever bothered with annual kale at all. Tree collards grow tall, sometimes head height or beyond, with broad, dark green leaves that are produced continuously throughout the year. Unlike regular kale, which grows for one season and must be replanted, tree collards can live for up to 20 years, quietly producing fresh leaves month after month, even through mild winters. The leaves are smoother and milder than typical kale, less bitter, more earthy, and very digestible. They are rich in calcium, iron, and vitamins C and K. For older adults, particularly those focused on bone health and maintaining muscle strength, this is an excellent green to have growing readily in the garden. Tree collards propagate very easily from cuttings. Snap off a stem, remove the lower leaves, press it into moist soil, and within a few weeks you have a new plant. Sharing cuttings with neighbors is a genuine joy with this one. Gardening tip: plant tree collards beside basil or marigold to naturally deter cabbage worms and attract the pollinators that will benefit your whole garden. Plant 8. Sorrel, the lemony perennial that brightens every meal. Sorrel is a leafy green that I believe is criminally overlooked in Western gardens. Once you plant it, it returns faithfully every spring with fresh, tender leaves that have a bright, lemony tartness, unlike any other green. Garden sorrel is a true perennial that forms an expanding clump over the years. Harvest the outer leaves regularly, and the plant keeps producing. It is one of the earliest greens to emerge in spring, often appearing while other vegetables are still barely waking up, which makes it especially valuable for early season nutrition. Sorrel is rich in vitamin C and antioxidants, and its distinctive sour flavor comes from oxalic acid. This means it is best enjoyed in moderate amounts, particularly for anyone prone to kidney stones. Tots who should limit high oxalate foods. Culinary uses are wonderfully varied. Sorrel soup is a classic French preparation. The leaves work beautifully in salads, stirred into scrambled eggs, blended into sauces for fish, or wilted into soups and stews. Its lemon flavor means you can often use it to reduce the amount of actual lemon or vinegar a recipe calls for. Gardening tip: pair sorrel with ginger or turmeric in a dedicated medicinal herb corner of your garden. They share similar moisture preferences and together create a patch that is both beautiful and nutritionally potent. Plant 9. Malabar spinach, the climbing green that thrives in the heat. If you live in a warm or tropical climate and have struggled to grow regular spinach, which tends to bolt and turn bitter the moment summer heat arrives, then Malabar spinach is your answer. Malabar spinach is not actually related to regular spinach, but its thick, glossy leaves serve the same purpose in the kitchen. And unlike ordinary spinach, it absolutely loves heat. It climbs vigorously up trellises, fences, or any support you provide, creating a lush vertical wall of edible green. In truly warm climates, it behaves as a perennial, reseeding naturally and returning year after year. Even where winters are cold, it self-seeds so readily that once you have planted it, you will likely always have it returning in the garden. The leaves are rich in iron, or vitamin A, calcium, and antioxidants. They have a slightly mucilaginous, or slippery, texture when cooked, which makes them particularly good in soups and stews, where they add body and nutrition. The tiny purple flowers that appear are an added beauty bonus that attracts pollinators. Gardening tip: train Malabar spinach to grow alongside beans or peppers. It provides natural shade and helps retain soil moisture, reducing your need to water and increasing the productivity of the whole bed. Plant 10. Okinawa spinach. The longevity green with stunning purple leaves. I want to pause here and tell you about a plant that connects directly to what we know about longevity, because its origins are deeply tied to one of the healthiest populations ever studied. Okinawa spinach is native to the tropical and subtropical regions of Asia, and it has long been a staple food in the Okinawan diet. As many of you may know, Okinawa has one of the highest concentrations of people who live past 100 years of almost anywhere on Earth. Researchers who study longevity around the world have looked carefully at what the Okinawan people eat, and this leafy green appears consistently in their traditional meals. The plant is visually stunning. Its leaves are deep green on top and a rich and vivid purple underneath, giving the garden an ornamental quality while quietly delivering serious nutrition. It is rich in antioxidants, fiber, and vitamins, and has a subtle, slightly tangy flavor that works well in soups, salads, and stir-fries. In warm climates, it is a true perennial ground cover, spreading gently across the soil and producing edible leaves all year round. It loves partial shade and moderate moisture, ideal for garden corners that get afternoon shade. Gardening tip: plant Okinawa spinach near lemongrass or ginger. They complement each other's growing requirements and together create a naturally pest-resistant, aromatic garden patch that looks as good as it produces. Plant 11. Moringa, the fast-growing tree that feeds you from top to bottom. Now we move into a category of plants so productive and nutritionally dense that calling them merely vegetables feels insufficient. Moringa earns the title of miracle tree. And for good reason. Moringa can grow more than 3 meters in a single season. Once established, it regenerates after every pruning, sending up new growth within days. Every part of the tree is useful: the tender leaves, the long seed pods, and even the seeds. And together they provide a nutritional profile that is genuinely remarkable. The leaves taste something like a cross between spinach and green tea. Earthy, slightly grassy, and full of flavor. They are extraordinarily rich in protein, iron, calcium, and vitamins A and C. When in parts of the world where food insecurity is a serious concern, Moringa has been used to combat malnutrition because it thrives where other crops fail. Poor soil, limited water, intense heat. For those of us with access to plenty of food, Moringa still represents an exceptional nutritional addition to the diet. The dried leaves can be powdered and added to smoothies, soups, or sauces. The fresh leaves work beautifully in stir-fries and curries. If you live in a warm climate, zones 9 through 13 roughly, Moringa is one of the most rewarding plants you can add to your garden. In cooler climates, it can be grown in a large container and brought indoors for winter. Gardening tip: grow Moringa near lemongrass or basil. These aromatic companions naturally repel leaf miners and mosquitoes, keeping your Moringa healthy and your garden pleasant to spend time in. Plant 12. Chayote, the climbing vegetable that produces hundreds of fruits. Chayote, also known as vegetable pear or merleton in some parts of the world, is a climbing vine that produces one of the most prolific harvests of any plant in this list. And once planted, it comes back reliably every year from its underground root system. Each pale green fruit is crisp, juicy, and mild in flavor, somewhere between a cucumber and an apple. And a single well-established chayote plant can produce hundreds of fruits in a single season. Hundreds. It is one of the most productive food plants you will ever grow. Every part of the chayote is edible. The fruits, the young shoots, and even the starchy root, which can be prepared like a potato. The fruits are low in calories, gentle on blood sugar, and provide a useful source of vitamin C, so potassium, and folate. Chayote loves to climb, so it needs a sturdy trellis, fence, or pergola to grow on. Give it that support and plenty of sunlight, and it will reward you with an almost overwhelming abundance of food for years. Gardening tip. Grow chayote alongside tall corn or sunflowers. These provide natural support for the vines and create a multi-level food garden that is both beautiful and exceptionally productive. Plant 13. Taro, the tropical root that comes back stronger every season. Taro, also known as cocoyam, is one of the oldest cultivated food plants in human history. It has been a dietary staple across Africa, Asia, and the Pacific for thousands of years, and for very good reason. The plant produces large, heart-shaped leaves that are genuinely spectacular to look at, like tropical solar panels capturing sunlight and funneling that energy down into the thick, starchy corms that form underground. Those roots are rich, creamy, slightly nutty in flavor, and deeply nourishing. Taro thrives in wet or humid conditions where most other vegetables struggle. If you have a low-lying area of the garden that stays damp or a spot prone to heavy rainfall, taro will absolutely love it. And after each harvest, the small side corms left in the ground sprout again the following season, meaning a single planting keeps feeding you indefinitely. Important note, taro must be cooked thoroughly before eating. Raw taro contains calcium oxalate crystals that cause intense irritation to the mouth and throat. Boiling, steaming, or roasting breaks these down completely, leaving the root safe and delicious. Gardening tip. Growing taro near lemongrass or turmeric helps deter the snails and soil fungi that can occasionally trouble the roots, a natural protective partnership that keeps the whole planting healthy. Plant 14. Cassava, the drought-defying root that feeds the world. Cassava is one of the most important food crops on Earth, a staple for hundreds of millions of people across the tropics and subtropics. And once you plant it, it is one of the most forgiving and self-sufficient plants a gardener can work with. You do not plant cassava from seed. You plant short sections of the woody stem directly into the soil. Within 8 to 12 months, those stems have produced thick, starchy roots that can weigh several kilograms per plant. If you leave pieces of root in the ground after harvest, new plants will emerge the following season without any intervention from you. Cassava does not require rich soil or frequent watering. It positively thrives in conditions where other crops fail. Poor sandy soil, prolonged dry spells, intense heat. When this resilience is precisely what makes it so valuable as a food security crop. The roots are used to make tapioca, flour, porridge, and are boiled or fried as a starchy side dish. The leaves, when properly cooked, are also edible and provide protein and vitamins. Again, like taro, cassava must be properly prepared, as raw cassava contains compounds that require cooking to neutralize. Gardening tip: intercropping cassava with climbing beans is a classic combination. The beans fix nitrogen in the soil, enriching it naturally for both crops, while reducing weed competition between the rows. Plant 15. Winged bean, the everything plant that feeds and enriches your soil. We are getting into truly remarkable territory now. Winged bean earns a special place in this list because of a quality that almost no other vegetable can claim. Every single part of it is edible. The pods, which are four-winged, star-shaped, and beautifully distinctive, are eaten young and tender, like a premium green bean. The leaves are edible and nutritious, used in salads and soups. The flowers are eaten raw or cooked, and the roots form protein-rich tubers that can be boiled or roasted like small potatoes. The vine climbs vigorously and produces continuously through the warm season, with new pods appearing every few days once it hits its stride. It is a member of the legume family, which means it does something extraordinary for your garden. It fixes nitrogen from the air into the soil, actively enriching the ground it grows in. Every year winged beans grow, your soil becomes more fertile, not less. With proper management, winged beans reseed readily and behave as a near perennial in warm climates, returning season after season from self-sown seeds or perennial roots. Gardening tip: plant winged beans beside corn or moringa. Both provide natural climbing support for the vines, and together the three plants create a self-sustaining mini food forest that continuously builds soil health. Plant 16. Perennial spinach. The effortless ground. Cover that never stops giving. Here is a plant for the gardener who wants maximum nutrition with minimum effort. Perennial spinach, also known as Suriname spinach or Brazilian spinach, is a low-growing leafy green that spreads gently across the soil as a living ground cover, producing food continuously all year round in warm climates. Unlike regular spinach, which bolts in summer heat and needs constant replanting, this plant simply keeps growing. Its leaves are thick, slightly crinkled, and hold up beautifully to cooking. They do not wilt down to almost nothing the way many greens do. They are excellent in stir-fries, soups, and stews. It is partial to warm, humid conditions and does very well in the kind of climate where regular leafy greens struggle. It tolerates partial shade, making it ideal for spots that do not receive full sun all day. And as a ground cover, it suppresses weeds naturally, reducing the amount of maintenance your beds require. Once planted, it requires virtually no attention. Water occasionally, harvest the outer leaves regularly, and it will keep producing indefinitely. Gardening tip: growing perennial spinach alongside ginger or turmeric creates a natural pest deterrent combination and helps both plants thrive with shared soil moisture. Plant 17. Arrowroot. The healing root that improves your soil as it grows. At first glance, arrowroot looks like any other leafy tropical plant, but what it is doing quietly underground is quite extraordinary. Arrowroot is a true perennial whose underground rhizomes, horizontal root structures, spread and multiply year after year. Harvest what you need each season and leave the rest, and the plant regenerates without any replanting. It prefers shaded, humid conditions, making it ideal for the areas of a garden where few other food crops thrive. The harvested roots are dried and ground into one of the finest, most digestible flours available. Arrowroot flour is naturally gluten-free, extraordinarily gentle on the digestive system, and has been used for centuries as a healing food for anyone recovering from illness, digestive upset, harsh or surgery. It is easily absorbed and does not burden the gut, which makes it particularly valuable for older adults or anyone with a sensitive digestive system. Beyond its nutritional uses, arrowroot actively improves the soil it grows in. Its roots loosen compacted earth, allowing water and air to penetrate more deeply, essentially improving your garden's structure as it grows. Gardening tip: plant arrowroot alongside turmeric or ginger, which share similar moisture and shade preferences. Together they form a harmonious trio that protects each other naturally from root rot and keeps the soil healthy. Plant 18. Bamboo shoots. The fast-growing perennial that earns its place now. I want to talk about a plant that many people think of only as a landscaping choice. but which, when the right varieties are chosen, becomes one of the most productive and low-maintenance food plants you can grow. Edible bamboo produces tender shoots each spring that emerge from the ground and must be harvested when young, before they harden into woody canes. These shoots are crisp, mildly sweet, and delicious in stir-fries, soups, and curries. They are a nutritional source of fiber, potassium, and B vitamins. Bamboo's underground rhizome system spreads steadily, sending up new shoots season after season, year after year, with no replanting ever needed. In fact, the main management challenge with bamboo is often harvesting enough. It will keep producing more than most families can eat. 2 important points. First, choose clumping varieties rather than running varieties, as running bamboo can spread aggressively into neighboring areas if not contained. Second, as with many plants in this list, edible bamboo shoots benefit from a brief boiling before use. Gardening tip: plant edible bamboo near banana trees or ginger, which share similar moisture and shelter preferences. Together, they create a lush, productive microclimate that supports both plants through warm seasons. Plant 19. Ceylon spinach, the tropical climbing green that produces all-year Ceylon spinach, also known by the botanical name Basella alba, and sometimes called Indian spinach or vine spinach, is one of those plants that rewards you so consistently once established that it becomes simply part of the garden landscape. It climbs. Give it a trellis, a fence, or even a simple stake, and it spirals upward, producing a cascade of thick, glossy, deeply nutritious leaves at every level. The more you harvest, the more it grows. In warm climates, it produces leaves all year round, making it one of the most reliable year-round green vegetables available. The leaves are rich in iron, calcium, and antioxidants, and hold up beautifully in cooking without wilting to almost nothing. They are excellent in soups, stews, and curries, adding both nutrition and a pleasant body to the broth. When Ceylon spinach flowers, its tiny purple blooms are genuinely beautiful, and they attract bees and butterflies to your garden, which benefits every other plant you are growing by improving pollination. Gardening tip: grow Ceylon spinach beside sweet potato vine or okra. These plants share nutrient needs and together create a shaded, moist microclimate that keeps the soil cool and both plants thriving through even the hottest months. Plant 20. Chaya, the miracle green that produces indefinitely. We have arrived at the final plant on our list, and I saved this one for last because it represents something genuinely extraordinary. A plant so productive, so resilient, and so nutritionally dense that it has earned the name miracle green in parts of Central America, where it has been cultivated for centuries. Chaya, also sometimes spelled chaja, grows into a tall, robust shrub with broad, glossy leaves that can reach up to 2 meters in height. Once established, it is virtually indestructible. You can cut it back completely and it will regrow. Break off a stem, press it into moist soil, and within weeks you have a brand new plant. It thrives in heat, tolerates poor soil, and survives drought conditions that would kill most other vegetables. A single chaya plant, once mature, can produce an almost continuous supply of fresh leaves for years, decades even, without ever needing to be replanted. The leaves are loaded with protein, calcium, iron, vitamins, and antioxidants, with a nutritional profile comparable to some of the most studied superfoods in the world. They are genuinely remarkable. One critical note: chaya leaves must always be cooked before eating, for a minimum of 10 to 15 minutes. The raw leaves contain a compound that releases toxic hydrogen cyanide, but this is completely destroyed by heat. Once cooked, the leaves are perfectly safe and delicious, with a mild, earthy flavor similar to spinach. Chaya is the plant that asks almost nothing of you and gives you fresh food for life. It is the ultimate plant once, eat forever vegetable. And for those of us who care deeply about food security, sustainability, and growing the most nutrition possible from the least effort, it may be the most valuable plant on this entire list. Gardening tip: grow Chaya near lemongrass or marigold. Both naturally repel insects and help maintain healthy soil, keeping your Chaya plants vibrant, productive, and pest-free year-round.